Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vectoscalar Tech Talk show. As we all know that in Vectoscalar Tech Talk, we have amazing guest leaders and thought leaders, tech leaders coming to our show and sharing the insights with you. And it's my pleasure that today we have Pankaj Kankar, who is going to speak about amazing thing like scaling product and tech with excellence and speed. Welcome, Pankaj, to the show.
Thank you, Vikas. Good evening, and it's my pleasure to be part of this show.
Thank you. And before sharing and taking question with Pankaj, let me give you a brief about his background. So Pankaj is a seasoned leader with a passion of building global products, winning teams, and high performance culture. In his 25 years plus years of experience, Pankaj has authored several success stories of exponential growth through technology and cultural transformation in both B2B and B2C space. And HBS Alumni, Pankaj was most recently the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Reliance Retails for the fashion and lifestyle group of businesses. He was also a certified leadership coach at Reliance Retail. Pankaj earlier stint includes CEO at Fareye, where he spearheaded several transformative initiatives that helped the company establish a global presence and raise 135 million USD in funding. Earlier, as a CTO of Lenskart, he launched multiple transformation and innovation around tech culture, platform, and product, playing a pivotal role in Lenskart's omni-channel strategy and its journey into Unicorn Club. Pankaj holds around a dozen patents and published several research papers in top-rated conferences and journals. He is also an active angel investor, mentor, and advisor to some of the interesting startups. Pankaj, you already have such an amazing journey doing so many things. How is it possible to do so many things in such a short period of time?
Uh, so it is. I don't think it's a short period of time, but rather than focusing on doing so many things, I just went with the flow. So I started with large MNCs, then IBM research happened, where I spent 6 years. Where I did quite a few patent and research papers, and then my startup journey started. And if you see, I have happened to work across diverse set of domains,
Yeah.
from telecom to e-commerce to advertising tech to big data to SaaS to logistics, right? And it was never sort of planned. But what I try to do is sort of what is that I can learn, how can I extract pattern and apply the previous learning into the common pattern. And once I was going through my startup journey, I see that irrespective of domain, irrespective of context, there are certain challenges which are very common. And while the organization struggles to navigate those challenges, for me, it appeared to be a recipe. And that's where, we picked this topic of today, that scaling product and tech with excellence and speed.
That's such a insightful thought that how you transformed into multiple technologies and the most look after technologies that we are having right now. And with that, can you zoom in into what is this scaling with excellence and speed? Why is it important and what is it all about?
Yeah, sure. So if we see, because generally, let's say a company starts and they initially try to find product market fit, and after iteration, let's say the company has find product market fit, their product is working well or services is working well, customers are happy, and we are companies are offering great services, right? And from there on, generally, there are two directions which most of the company take. Either there are companies which try to maintain that excellence and customer delight, but somehow get slowed down in their growth journey. I have seen few companies like that. Most of the company falls in other direction, where they suddenly scale and grow, but excellence goes for a toss. Customer dissatisfaction become high, the quality of service, and I'm sure you would have noticed that suddenly
Yeah.
when companies are scaling, their excellence, their quality, their service level agreement, all are suffering, whether it is external or it is internal, right? So I call it, either growing on Y dimension or X dimension. Whereas my point has been, how can you navigate diagonally, right? And that's what I call is a scaling with excellence and speed. Uh, and one of my company where I worked early stage, Govas Networks, I joined almost when it was zero revenue, and in 3 years we scaled to $35 million. That's where sort of we try to incorporate some of these practices where we were not postponing some of these excellence thing which would work at a scale to a later stage, but parallelly while we were building growth we were incorporating that. So for me the key is, you may achieve excellence at a small scale, right? But how would you ensure that you have excellence at a scale? And that is a mindset shift also, because now everything you are thinking has to work at a scale while being excellent, while not compromising its speed.
Yeah, yeah. That seems like a very easy to say statement, but I'm sure achieving it must be a challenge. So, what are the key challenges that you see when scaling a product with technology in the growing organization?
Okay, so if you look at my startup journey, most of the journey has been around transformation and scale. If I leave one or two, like one early stage company which we scaled, but if you talk about Lenskart, if you talk about Fareye, these were the companies which were in single or early double digit revenue and shooting towards triple digit revenue, right? And what I see is when you are in that phase, there are some uh, fundamental things. Because of growth you postpone, right? So I see certain common pattern. Even as an advisor, I see certain common pattern that your platform has started breaking, right? Your platform has started going down as your traffic and order are increasing. Okay, adding a new capability is taking now much more time, because your initial platform which you did not design for scale and modularity, adding any new feature is going to take time, right?
Yeah,
And if you look at on the team side, probably head of engineering knows what has to be delivered in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. An engineer knows what the person has to do in 2 days, right? And then nobody knows what has to be done in the quarter and all that, right? There may be an
true.
idea, but it is not on the ground. So there is no concept of roadmap. Then you become a feature churning factory. Left, right, center, different functions are asking this feature, that feature, and you keep building them, and nobody is measuring what is the impact. So we are building features, but are we building value, right? So all those things sort of uh, is what I have generally seen when the company goes through that phase. Because earlier, in the earlier phase, all these processes structure were overhead, so you don't need them. You are a small team, 20, 25 people team, everybody knows what is being done, right? But as you are growing, the same mechanism does not work, right? And then what I have seen is usually the technology head try to solve this problem only through technology, right? So they would bring in new technology. They would say, PHP, Ruby, go to Java or Golang and bring this microservices architecture. But the problem is technology does not work in isolation. And I say what you have to do is you have to harmonize product. What would you really build? Because no matter what, you would have limited capacity. Platform or technology, processes, your product development and software development processes, and people or organization, right? All these need to be harmonized to manage those pains which I have spoken about, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of time, as I mentioned, people only focus on one area. And if we see the architecture that you are building on the tech side and the organization architecture cannot be in complete disharmony, right? You
right.
cannot keep process out of the equation. The other challenge which then comes is that as the team grows, the communication become more convoluted and murky, right? The groups started forming. There is an old set of people and you are bringing new talent. You have to make them work together. You have to address insecurities of everyone, right?
Right.
And you have to ensure that no, it is not a zero sum game. Everyone can grow together, right? So I think these are the challenge, and that's where I see that all these elements need to be thought through and harmonized for managing that pain point to be successful. In fact, I remember in one of the organization that I joined, they were going through this transformation. The platform used to go down almost every second day, right? And they were going through fixing this for around 2 years before I joined. Right? And they were able to achieve only 10-15% of it. And the reason was, again, looking at it from an isolation. Another important thing I have seen across is that when you are doing this transformation, you have to overcome a hump. You would have to go through a hump because there is a lot of legacy, there is a lot of probably one time work that you need to do. And many people, they do either do a mistake of over hiring for that hump, which is not going to sustain once you have streamlined and are ready for next level of growth. So I also believe that that is also a period when you would like to partner with other players. Like in Lenskart, when I one of the thing I was driving when I was doing transformation is also bringing in automation, QA automation, right? So I sort of brought in partners. Similarly, for other verticals, I brought in partners because that's a 6-8 months activity for you to go through that hump, and then you can sort of have your team running it. So these are some of the lessons that I have learned, and I have seen repeatedly organizations which are going through that pain points, going through these challenges.
That's a beautiful orchestration. I think I could just visualize the way, Pankaj, you were talking about different things, starting from the technology, that it's not just the technology which is going to solve the problem, then how to manage the team, and then how to align the product vision with the technology that we are building. I could just visualize that probably as a technology and as a software engineer, we are just looking for completing the stories, the backlogs, instead of thinking and having a wider picture. So it seems like an orchestrator who is orchestrating so many things. Easier said than done, but definitely people want to do that aspect, but there are different challenges in even implementing that at a leadership level. So
Yes.
how one can manage that change, uh, challenging aspect of leadership? How do you lead that part?
So there are multiple dimensions to that, right? I would probably touch upon some of the key dimension. One dimension is, as a leader, you are interfacing with board or CXOs, right? So when you are driving this change, let's say when I say we need to move from this monolith, which is 6 year old, to a new modern platform, and as an outcome of it, you would not have any new feature. It's very hard for CXOs or a board to digest that,
Right.
right? So one stakeholder are those. For those, I speak language that they understand. I speak financial language. I use the term which is known as debt to equity ratio, right?
Okay.
And when I talked about debt to equity ratio and what happens when that ratio uh, goes beyond a healthy range, they were able to, then I translated it that into tech debt, and then equity is what are the new capabilities that you are able to bring. And because in one of my organization that I joined, I saw that 60% of that product and tech team bandwidth is going into either fixing production issues or bugs, right? So just by adding more people, you are, so you need to talk the language that they understand, right? Convert into financial benefits or convert into customer acquisition, retention, those sort of a matrix, rather than saying that we are going to sort of build a modern platform that would scale and would be highly available, right? So that's one sort of challenge. And I think as a leader you have to also be assertive, right? Take take a stand, because when shit hits the fan, everybody want things to happen, right? So you need to sort of play that tactfully. Then the other element of it is basically, as I mentioned, managing different stakeholders, right? So with business, as I said, one of the practice that I follow is at a growth stage, have an annual roadmap, have a quarterly roadmap. And when I say roadmap, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would 100% stick to it. It is a roadmap at that point of time, which can change. But the whole idea is the entire organization knows what we are working, and every quarter we keep revising that roadmap. Right. So when we hit second quarter, first quarter, end of first quarter, we revise next 4 quarter roadmap. So everyone has a longer term view. People are not just working isolation, and they are able to relate to what we are building today, how it would impact things in future, and where is the business going. Right. And then you get buy-in. And then you also start, as I mentioned, seeing the value of the feature. What is the adoption? Many times you would find you have built 10 feature and 8 are never being used, right? So what is the adoption? Of course, you have to do it tactfully, because some of your other business partners may not really like that. But you have to define the overall value for the organization, and even the value which the business would get if they are building the right features, right? And finally, I think the most important part of it is about the team, right? Because what happens through this change is team is feeling very insecure. This is not a small change, this is a transformation.
Right.
Failures are bound to happen. It is not possible that you would not fail, right? And then everybody think about their security. So you have to make sure that you share the larger vision with them, why it is important for the company, why it is important for the business, and why it is, more importantly, why it is important for them personally. What is that they would learn? For example, when I moved from PHP to a microservices architecture, the PHP people had a lot of insecurity, and I showcased them how their career would become better if they move to this new technology and architecture. Similarly, to my QA team, when I mentioned if they move from manual to automation testing, how their career would become better. So you have to really have a strong communication, show them the larger vision, show them the overall plan, and then make sure that you build the confidence that you are with them. If there is a failure, the failure is yours, not yours. Let them just give their best. Once you are able to establish that trust that they have to give their best, if things fail, which they are going to fail, uh, nobody is going to blame them. Rather than we are going to learn and improvise. And that confidence and trust has always helped me. I have not seen a situation, I have handled tough situations in terms of building product and tech, but never my team has failed me in delivering the end result. And the one thing which worked is having this confidence that we give our best, and there is somebody who is there to help us, guide us, support us, protect us.
Those are very fundamental insights, I think, which are very important for any growing team. And as you rightly mentioned, that it is important to develop and build the winning teams, because at the end of the day, they are the torchbearer. They are actually doing the work on the ground. So, do you think, is there anything else which can help that in building the team in this fast-paced and high-pressure environment, or anything else that can also be added? You have already added very essential points, but anything else that you like to add to that?
So I would say, again, this is my observation, limited
Yeah,
observation, but a lot of time I see we want perfection, right? We want
yeah,
that this person should have all these skills. Whatever skills you need in your team, you list down and you start looking for all those skills in a person. In my view, that's probably is not a right approach when you have to especially grow the team, right? What I try to look at, I identify key skills, and I see if anybody is bringing one or two of those core skills, right? That person is good enough, because focus on person's strength rather than weakness, and then create a complementary skill set. Create a team which brings the complementary skill set to create the complete canvas. Right? So I think that's one important thing. Second important thing is, of course, I focus a lot more about curiosity and hunger. And number three, willingness to unlearn, learn, and relearn. Right. A lot of time as a technologist, we become too rigid onto what we have learned, and that becomes our bottleneck. So those are the areas where I focus a lot more, and then spending time with them, creating a next layer and a layer after that is very important. So how do you ensure? In fact, when I was doing my HBS program, one of the professor told us clearly that a great leader is a leader whose presence elevate the performance of the team, but whose absence does not put down that performance. So even in the absence of that leader, the team should continue to perform. Right. So I think a lot of that's where I use servant leadership and what I call as leader as a coach. In my view, the role of leader is a coach. If you are able to build more leaders, I think that's the greatest impact that you can create for organization as well as in people life.
Okay, that's like, I think the key fundamental. I think if we get just list down all those things, that people should have that curiosity and hunger to do what they were doing, and how leader as a coach can build that environment where people can learn, unlearn, and relearn new things. In line with that, we have a question coming from Saddam Hussein, who is asking, how do you foster a culture of innovation and agility within the team while scaling, and how does it contribute to the overall success of the scaling process?
Sure. So I create mechanism, right? I try to create mechanism, of course, normal things like conducting hackathon or encouraging my team to participate in external hackathons, idea jams. Those are at one level. But I always do at Reliance, I was handling a 700 people uh, team, right? So uh, making sure that we are doing quarterly town hall, making sure there is some time I keep where people can reach out to me. And what I encourage is people is to come out with their ideas and create some bandwidth. I always create some bandwidth where we are not only working on top down things but working on bottom up ideas as well. And the ideas that we like, we support them. Right. Second thing I also do is I encourage not only my product and UX team, but also my engineering team to visit or be in touch with their customer. As an example, in Lenskart, I made it mandatory that anyone who is joining would visit two stores, and anyone who is joining in Gurgaon, because we had office in Gurgaon and Bangalore, would visit warehouse because our warehouse and manufacturing was in Gurgaon. And not just that, whenever a big feature has to be launched, let's say it is a POS related feature, the 3 4 core member of the team would go and visit store before launch to understand the requirement, and after launch to see the way they have built the product, is it working that way or not. Now the impact of that is, you do not realize initially when you do that, there are a lot of interesting ideas, innovative ideas that comes from people at the ground. In fact, one of the idea at Lenskart one person brought in is, at tier 2 tier 3 cities that time, network was a problem, and they say, why can't we build a light app which can work even in absence of network connectivity, or eventually you would have to have network connectivity, but
Definitely.
you have to sync the catalog. But even if there is no network at that time, I can even place a order, and we used SMS technology. So I
Mm.
think connecting them with customer and showing them the larger vision and giving them some time and encouraging them for a bottom up innovation uh, helps in bringing innovation. And finally, also making sure they are connected to external world in one way or other.
Those are very critical points that you have shared, Pankaj, about giving them the bandwidth and a platform, an environment where they can work on new ideas, uh, and especially making them visit the stores and the end locations so that they can get the first hand feel of what is happening. I think that itself is a very interesting point to ponder upon. I hope, Saddam, your question is answered. I have another question coming from Nikhil Agarwal. Being a CTO of a new venture or a startup, what kind of challenges do you see while dealing with non-technical founders? Only a CEO or CTO can understand that part.
Yeah, you are going to put me. See, okay, I would honestly answer it. Uh, I have seen both shades. I have seen a non-technical founder uh, who it was very easy to work with. His philosophy is that, yeah, I don't understand tech, you tell me what it takes. If there is a question he would ask, let me understand it, right? So I found it much easier to work with that non-tech founder than a partially tech founder, because partially tech founder would have some partial view which may not be correct, right? So I have seen that. At the other hand, I have also seen where things become tough in the sense that it is only one drop down. Why should it take you know 5 days? You don't know that what is going to happen in the back end. Or you see, oh, I have met this founder and he is building this, he has built this in 2 days. And right, so I think you have to basically spend time with them. You have to make them understand Uh, like for example, in couple of cases, I said, okay, let us talk tomorrow. And within a night, I created a POC, right? I said, I built this POC. But if you have to make it a product which can handle million of user, you are going to spend another 3 months, right? So there is a difference between doing a POC and building a product, right? So he got that idea. And sometimes you also have to let them fail in a limited environment. Of course, the damage should not be. And this especially happen on things like security uh, and scale, right? That security is like, that fire extinguisher in the building. Nobody cares about it unless there is a fire, and when there is a
Yeah.
fire, you are anyway in trouble, right?
Right.
So when I we create a security plan, you get deprioritized, or we can do it next quarter. But when an incident happen, then everybody is right. So sometime I artificially, you may want to artificially inject, or you may want to sort of take a low incident and then use that low impact incident to highlight the gravity of the situation.
Right.
So I think it is more about dialogue, listening to them. You first listen to them, let them speak what they are saying, and then you sort of share your point of view. But as I said, I've seen both shades. The other shade more, the first shade lesser, but both shades.
But no, both shades are possible, different shades that are there.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's very insightful. And now we have Simple Setia asking, would you like to share any interesting experience in scaling products? Anything which you can quickly recall, or any interesting experience while scaling any product?
Yes. So, as in one of the company in Fareye, when I joined, this very second day, I was put in front of a customer, uh, the CXOs, and the customer was threatening that they would move out of the platform because platform was not able to handle their scale and it was breaking. And now you see, I am just joined and I have to face this situation. Of course, I asked 1 week of time. I said, that's the reason I have joined. The company is very sincere about it, uh, but give me a 1 week time, right? And then 1 week we did a due diligence, a lot of deep dive, right? And then we went back with the plan to these to that customer board which was driving this. And I was very candid. I had a plan, but I also had what I support I need from the customer side, right? And I suggested 2 half-day workshop, because even on the customer side, finance, operations, IT, they were not aligned. So one would say go this direction, my team would build that direction, and then they would say this direction. So instead of blaming, we tried to sort of create this. And I said, I guarantee this would happen, but this is sort of thing we are doing. This is the support we need from you. And then in a very focused manner, setting the expectation right. Not everything is not going to happen in 15 days, right? Working with them, we design this sprint, right? And you would then not believe that few months down the line, we were awarded as one of the most appreciated vendors.
Wow. So it's definitely a turnaround story for a client, that how you can turn around like a customer who was about to go into becoming the
Yeah.
preferred vendor.
Yeah, I think what is important is do not overcommit and promise. Sometimes we come under pressure, and whatever customer is asking, we say yes, 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 right? And we also hesitate. So first, I think that's important. Customer would be happy if you do 70%, which are more important. Again, you would see, not everything is critical for customer, but you need to have that dialogue. And once you start delivering on your commitment, the trust start building, and then you can also bring in the elements. So I said, it's a collaborative effort. This is needed. Your success is our success. We exist because of you, but we need your support. We need your collaboration.
That's a beautiful dialogue and a thought process, Pankaj, to begin with, that when customers feel that they are being valued, they are given due time on that part. We have another question coming from Saddam. How do you maintain a customer centric focus when scaling, ensuring that the quality of the product and user experience remains a top priority?
Yes, so that's as I mentioned, excellence, scaling with excellence basically means element of that is that you stay customer centric. And as I mentioned, uh, it of course does not happen in a week or a month, but you can't only think of platform. You
Right.
have to think of people. You have to think of things like automation. I would tell you example. Very frequently, I see people say we have CI/CD, okay, and then I ask
Yeah.
how much of your test cases are automated. They say no, we don't have, or we have 20%, right? And then I say, then why are you saying CI/CD, right? So I think when you talk about quality, the other challenge I see is that product is telling to a developer, QA is asking a developer what to test, and then if that testing is happening, you can understand what would happen, right? So that is where again the agile practices come into picture. That when you are building your sprint plan, product management, QA should have, especially I've seen QA taking a backseat. QA should have a equal seat in that planning, right? And that also helps, right? The requirement clarity, ask question, get the requirement very clear, so that you are not, because a lot of time your quality suffer because the requirement is not clear to you and you build something else. But all before that, the first thing I try to do is understand what customer really need, not what customer is asking for, okay? What customer really need. An example of that may be that I may go to a doctor and I say that I need paracetamol because I have 102 temperature, right? That's what I am asking for. But it may be that doctor realized for 2 days I have not slept, I had a very hectic schedule, all I need is 8 hours sleep, right? So my need is that my temperature comes down. My want was paracetamol. So
Yeah.
basically, I try to work with my product team to understand the customer need, because if you are not understanding the customer need, you would spend all the efforts, and at the end of the day, customer would not be focused. And then, of course, in our review mechanism, we track the matrices, which are customer centric matrices. It may be related to conversion, it may be related to payment success rate, it may be delivery at first time delivery success, bunch of those matrices. And also to business, when they're asking for a requirement, you ask would it deteriorate customer uh, experience. So I think you have to create few champions who are talking about customer and their language. uh, that becomes important.
I think those are such good golden rules that we can build for developing a customer
Ha-
centric approach.
Having said that, I would also say there are times where consciously and deliberately you take certain step where you know that it may short-term hamper customer experience for a larger purpose, but you know that the impact is contained, and it is not going to last long. So sometime you may have to do that because you are trying certain experiment. You don't know how it would impact customer experience, but those has to be very conscious calls with clear understanding of the impact and how can you overcome the impact.
Would you like to give? That's a very insightful thought that in the short term, customer may have certain experiences, but any example of any situation like that where in the short term the customer may not have a good experience, but in the long term it is essential.
See, one example which comes to my mind is, of course, when the demonetization hit, right? So we had to change a lot of things, right?
Right.
Now, of course, when we do this in over one night, there are going to be customer
Yes.
experiences which are going to be deteriorated, right? But we know that this is the long-term solution and we will fix it in next 1 month, right? But immediately that had to be done, otherwise it would have been a bigger impact. Another example I would tell, which is now very common, but if you go back 2014, whether it was Paytm or Freecharge, you would basically, when you have to pay somebody, you would add their number.
Yeah.
Okay, you would add number. There was no name on this. We wanted to personalize it. We say, no, I want to make a payment to Vikas or Saddam rather than
Right.
9810399580. Right? And we wanted to remove the friction of first time addition of somebody. Right? But what sorry, this repeat payment, the repeat
Right.
payment, we wanted to personalize it. But when we did that design, we made a mistake, and the first time, if you have to add a new one, that experience got deteriorated. It became a three-step process. Okay, that was a over mistake from our side, but then we quickly realized it. We were hit badly by on the social media, but then the idea was we quickly realized it, understood, and in 10 days we put another release, and then we got a raving reviews.
Okay.
So
That's
we wanted to do this experiment, and when you do this experiment, and this now you see everybody is paying somebody rather than a number, right? You may overlook few things and make mistake, but that should not stop you from.
and definitely, as I can see that this kind of calculated risk taking ability is the foundation for innovation, because unless we do that, how we will innovate for the bigger things?
Sure,
That's very
sure.
helpful. We have another question coming from Shreya Kalra. Are there specific architectural pattern or technologies you recommend for scalability?
See, I would not say technology because I tend to be keep my mind technology agnostic. In fact, I remember when I was in IBM research, I was a C programmer, and I had to build this tool in Java. And I went to my director and I say, I would do it. I don't know Java. Why are you, asking me to do it in Java? And then he said a very powerful thing. He said that you are in IBM research, you are supposed to invent a new programming language if needed, right? And that sort of still resonates with me. So when I say I'm agnostic to technology rather than being particular about, I look at the context, right? What context it is, what type of skill set, what type of product it is, what is the criticality scale, how much time it would take to. So generally look at that way. For example, people debate, should we build native app or should it be Flutter, right? Now there is no one answer. If you are very much close to hardware and want to give a very high performance experience, you may take another path, but if not, then you would take another. But there are certain patterns that I would say, while scaling, and they may not be architectural pattern. One of it is, of course, you try to have your application loosely coupled, not have tightly coupled application. Initially you may want to create monolith, but as soon as you hit MVP, rather than postponing that re-architecture for years, quickly refactor and make it loosely coupled. Always follow, once you have hit product market fit, I think automation becomes an important element of it. Automation would help you to experiment, automation would help you to roll out things faster and more things. Try to adopt shift left approach, right? Do things early. uh, so these are some of the things I would say which are not purely architectural patterns, but a set of patterns which helps in scaling.
Yeah, set of patterns or probably set of best practices
Yes.
that to be followed, a guiding north star for the our
And
journey.
I think I would also say that, again, look at what you need. A lot of people just simply go, oh, NoSQL is best. Let me take this NoSQL DB. Look at what you need at that point for next few years and try that. Like MySQL still scales to a large extent that we underestimate. Right. So don't pick a technology because there is a hype about it. Pick what works for you.
Yeah, so the line, as I understood from your conversation, it's not the best, but what is best for you. You need to
What
find
is
what is
best?
best for
Yes,
you.
yes. So I would give you an example. I was in an advertising tech company, and again, the platform was breaking. We had to plan it for 40, 50x scale over next few years, right? The decision I took is the ad operations platform. We had an ad operation platform where you configure the campaign, run the report. That was in PHP monolith. I did not touch it because changing that did not have enough ROI, right? It was not a critical system. But the core ad serving system, which is serving the ad, and you have to serve the ad within 150 millisecond, right? When a
True.
request comes. That I completely transformed from PHP to Java. So I did not take one approach. I say, what is the impact? What is the ROI? What is the criticality of this system, performance scale of the system? So that is one example I can share where you see what is best for you rather than what is best.
That's very interesting example. And now we have another last question coming from Nikhil Agarwal. That in many cases it has been observed that few startup product implement unnecessarily implement larger system in place in scale in the name of scalability that has a cost and which was not required at MVP stage. What are your thoughts on the same?
Now, completely agree. And as I said, both under engineering and over engineering are a problem. And the example that you mentioned is like building a utopian tower. It slows you down, and you realize you have done so much work, but it was not needed because your direction of the product that you have taken is a very different direction, right? So I think till MVP stage, what is important is you are able to quickly iterate, quickly see, take features in the user hands and see what is working for you. You may want to maintain some basic hygiene practices, like you want to have measurement in place so that you can see. But at MVP, it is important to have quick iteration and taking things in the hands of user faster, right? Having said that, what is also important is that as you see that now your MVP is working and you are growing, don't procrastinate refactoring for long, for many years. People procrastinate it for 3 years, 4 years, and that's where the balance has to be brought in. And that's the example I was taking, that one of the company where I joined with nearly zero revenue to 35 million revenue. As soon as we saw a scale and we saw that we are now getting terabytes of data, parallelly we started building the new platform, refactoring the platform rather than waiting for another few years. So doing the right thing at the right time is important. And that's the difference between 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100 journey. And that's where you need different skill set. A lot of time we say, we need a CTO, but we don't see, is it a 0 to 1, 1 to 10, or 10 to 100? They are not same. They are very, very different mindset and skills.
And that gives me a thought about a book. I may not have remember the exact title, but what brought you here will not take you there. So
Yes,
a
yes.
game at every place is different. It has to be
Different.
played differently. The
True,
same rules
true.
will not apply. Pankaj, I think you have answered all the questions, but still, there is one question which is coming to my mind. Is what about your future? How you're planning your future? What are your future endeavors?
Yeah, so I have recently quit my role at Reliance. And again, what I saw, the challenges that I spoke about, last 12 years, I have consistently seen those challenges, whichever organization I work. They were almost same, almost similar. Of course, the solutions had to be contextualized to the environment, right? But there was certain common pattern. And then as an advisor, when I speak to fellow CTO, I see they also going through similar pain points, right? And then to me, it appears that this is obvious, or this is the right thing. They are thinking in a very shallow direction. So that's where I sort of am now planning to start a technology consulting and a transformation coaching firm, where we would help companies, especially which are going through growth phase. How can they navigate that growth journey with a lesser pain and much faster, in a much more efficient way, by making lesser mistake? And also companies, because now digital is a key, even the traditional company has to go through digital, right? So also helping them in their digital transformation journey. So I, along with my partner, are establishing that firm, because we believe that the lot of experience that we have gained by scaling various organization, the ecosystem need it, and if we can help, we can create a larger impact beyond one organization.
And while talking to you, I can just correlate that you are very apt as a coach and consulting consultant in that manner, because I think this session itself was a small masterclass for the CTO, covering all the aspects that one need to have and build a scaling product and tech with excellence and speed. Uh, how do you learn? Because it's like learning new technology. Things are changing at a very rapid pace, but it's easier said than done that you did this and you did that. But how do you keep upgrading yourself? What are your best practices to learn those things?
You would see most of my learning come from my people. I do read books, I mean blogs, I do watch videos, but most of the learning, I would not hesitate to go to an SD1 or SD2 who is great in that technology, and sit with him and start asking question, that why this, why not this, what is difference between them, right? And I believe that learning is much more lasting learning than when I read a blog. And second thing is also contemplate. Third thing is debate in my circle. Like for example, Flutter, React Native, or native app. This is a debate. If you talk to 10 different CTOs, you would get all the answers. So I keep debating, but that debate is not just which one, what was your use case, where you made this shift. So I think a lot of my learning comes through those discussion and debate. Of course there is a reading part of it, but I found somehow those discussion and debate to be much more meaningful and engaging.
I can see that coming from the kind of insight that you shared with others, which requires a great level of contemplation that what other is thinking and how do you do that. Uh, it was a very interesting session, Pankaj. And my last question would be that any last message for the audience?
Yeah, I think we are in a very interesting time. Uh, Technology has really democratized access to the opportunity. Today, anyone, even from a small village, right, can create a startup. The technology has really democratized that space. I would say focus on building the value, right? Focus on building the value. Valuation would come over a period of time. Valuation would chase you if you are solving a real problem, if you are doing what you are passionate about and building the value. The valuation would come to you. You would get the return. So that sort of is what I would a brief message I would like to give. And always stay curious, always stay hungry. You can learn from anybody. Don't think that I am this designation, that I cannot. You can learn from everybody. Wherever you get learning, be humble and learn.
So focus on the value, be curious, and be hungry. I think
Yes.
those are the mantras that you would like to suggest to the audience. And I can surely say that as Niti Aayog is building the Vision 2047 document, that what India would be in 2047 after 100 years of independence. I think these are the things, like the way technology is growing in India, the way we are getting the limelight from the global space. I think we need that kind of leadership and the values in our engineers and in the tech evangelists, that how we can build new tech, how we can solve the larger problems that industry, especially India as a country, is facing, and how we can find the technological solution. With that thought, I would really like to thank you, Pankaj, for your beautiful insight and being on Vector Tech Talk show.
Thank you, Vikas. It was lovely talking to you. It was very engaging conversation, and thanks for inviting me to this talk.
It's our pleasure, and thanks, viewers. First of all, because you are the real people who are actually listening to us. And in future, when you listen to this podcast, do type in your comment that whatever your thought was, and in case you have any question, do type in the comment box, and we'll make sure that we take it to the Pankaj and help you answer, get the answer for those questions as well. Thanks, Pankaj, and thanks, viewer, for being on the shop. Have a nice day ahead, and keep enjoying.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Vyas. Have a nice day. Bye. Bye.